He brought out a knife and he lunged at me, but I managed to avoid it and run away.
For many months, Burhan was told by authorities that he was lying, that he was pretending to be a child. But those same authorities now accept they were wrong. The story Burhan tells is one of violence, of what can happen when children are disbelieved and left to fend for themselves as adults in the asylum system. Last year, nearly 3,000 unaccompanied asylum seekers arrived in the UK claiming to be under 18. If they're believed, they get more access to education and a better chance of being allowed to settle here. Nobody doubts that some adults claim to be children, but the light rarely shines on many genuine children who are wrongly classified as adults. Burhan is one of them. You rarely hear from Britain's asylum seeker children, but after his experiences, Burhan has agreed to talk. He's worried that speaking out will affect his asylum claim, so we've protected his identity. Burhan is from a troubled area of the Middle East. He came to the UK after a long journey across Europe. He made the final crossing to the UK in the back of a lorry.
I was in the lorry for 3 days. I had no food and only a little water, which ran out quickly. When I got off the lorry, I went to a petrol station and asked for the police.
For 4 months, Burhan was treated as a child. That was until social services visited to say they believed he was 20 and not 16.
I said, no, you're wrong. They said we're going to move you and you will be treated like an adult. They said if you don't go, we will call the police and the police will take you by force. I felt so powerless because no matter how many times I explained to them, they didn't want to believe me.
Like all other supposedly adult asylum seekers, he was dispersed and sent to live in a room in a house with other asylum seekers. It was there, he says, he was assaulted by an older man he was living with.
One day in the early morning, he kicked my door in. He had a plate in his hand and he smashed it on my head. My eyesight was blurry and I couldn't see. He brought out a knife and he lunged at me, but I managed to avoid it and run away.
Did you believe that he was going to kill you?
I was very scared and I was shivering. I ran away with no clothes on, not even shoes. I only came back after the police had arrested him.
After a total of 8 months, independent social care workers reviewed his case and judged that Burhan was in fact a child. He's now at college and in appropriate accommodation. Burhan isn't alone. Using the Freedom of Information Act, Newsnight has now obtained figures that identify 137 cases over 15 months of children being disbelieved about their age and sent into the adult asylum scheme, only for the authorities to later accept they'd been telling the truth all along. As well as cases we'd previously identified in Liverpool, Croydon, Wakefield and Glasgow, we've now discovered 26 in Derby, 29 in Cardiff and 9 in Birmingham. Burhan's case was handled by local social services. The 130 cases we've identified have typically been following Home Office assessments.
There are real safeguarding issues to be answered here, where young people are put into an adult asylum-seeking accommodation and have to share all sorts of facilities with adults. And if that young person is either subject to violence or sexual assault or trafficking or drugs and alcohol, then that's an absolute scandal, and that safeguarding issue is to be laid at the door of the Home Office, because it's completely incorrect for young people to be treated in that way.
In one recent case, the Court of Appeal sided with a child who the Home Office had threatened with removal from the UK. His lawyer thinks these cases are the tip of the iceberg.
I think that the issue with the figures that have been uncovered is firstly that I don't think that even reflects or truly reflects the situation or circumstances at all. There may have been many hundreds, maybe thousands who have been removed out of the UK even before they've had any opportunity to challenge the age assessment by the immigration services.
The Home Office has responded to the Court of Appeal judgment. Now anyone appearing under the age of 25 will be passed to specialist local authority age assessors. We put our findings to the Home Office, who said,
"Our approach seeks to strike an important but sensitive balance between ensuring that children who claim asylum are appropriately supported, while at the same time maintaining the integrity of the asylum system and preventing adults passing themselves off as children. We are disappointed by the recent court judgment and are considering its implications carefully."
When they said I was a child, I had mixed feelings. I was happy that finally somebody believed me, but I was upset. They made me feel terrible. Every night I was crying, and every night when I was crying, I could hardly go to sleep.
Obviously you don't have to do this interview. Why have you decided to talk to us?
For the other children to not go through this terrible experience. I don't want other children to have that ever again.